Hi, everybody. I'm Olivia F. Scott, Associate Professor of Advertising here at Loyola University, New Orleans, the founder of Omerge Alliance's marketing consultancy, and the host of Behind the Ad right here, where we peel the layers of the media, advertising, and marketing onion back to demystify the industry for you. In today's digital world, creating strong connections with your audience is critical. The secret sauce? Crafting engaging content that keeps customers coming back for more. We talk a lot about engaging content here on Behind the Ad because it's really important today. Today, we have the privilege of hosting an industry expert with 2 decades of experience in digital marketing and content strategy across various industries like media, nonprofit, healthcare, and now tourism. She currently holds a position of manager for marketing and special projects at New Orleans and Company, where she's devoted to promoting the vibrant charm of New Orleans. Here to share with us how you can use the magic of content to build unwavering brand loyalty is the one and only Miss Mandy Barton. Mandy, how are you?
Hello, I'm well. How are you?
I'm wonderful, wonderful. You're beautiful in that blue. It kind of works with our background.
Oh, that's great. I planned it that way.
Yeah, thank you for color coordinating. So it's very interesting that your experience spans different industries, which is really cool. Most people kind of have one industry,
Sure.
one vertical, and they kind of go from there. What is the common thread in building brand loyalty and crafting really good content across industries?
That is such a good question. I think the answer is authenticity. That's probably a big, marketing content buzzword right now, but there's a truth in it. It doesn't matter what you do or what you're selling, what your product is or your service. If you're not authentic, people are going to know. They're going to poke holes in your messages and your content. They're going to call you out on it, and it's not going to work. It's not going to fly. So you have to bring a level of trust to your audience, to your consumers, to your buyers, and you have to match that with really, really good customer service.
So I was going to ask you why authenticity is so important, but is it that it connects directly to trust?
Sure.
What is it?
Yes, and it's for lack of a better word, it's real. When you think about the brands that you like to watch or that you remember, what is it that you liked about them? They were honest. They were real. They were themselves. They were true to who they are and to what they can do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So what are your top 3 essential qualities that make content not just informative, but emotionally resonant and really engaging with your audience?
Okay. Number 1, it has to include people. And I think that's fair for any industry that you work in. Certainly something that I experienced in my career span. Even when you think about brands like healthcare brands, you don't want to see the buildings or the medical equipment or the procedures. You want to see the care team. You want to see the patients. You want to see the people who are experiencing that brand, that service.
Okay.
Same with tourism. I mean, we think it's the attractions. We think it's the food, which it is. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of things that bring people to the city, but ultimately it's the hospitality and it's the conversations, the experiences, the encounters, all the way from their Uber ride at the airport to the bellman at the hotel to the waiter at the restaurant. It's all these personal touches, these human connections.
Gotcha.
I think that's the most important thing for all content, is to have emotion, to have humanity. I also think content that is surprising goes a long way, and it doesn't have to necessarily be off the wall. We're not talking. It doesn't have to be a Geico commercial, right? But if it can make you sort of do a double take, like what were they talking? That was a healthcare commercial, but they were out there fishing. Something that kind of makes you remember it, because our attention spans are so teeny tiny these days.
Correct.
So if you can have an element of surprise, that really, really goes a long way.
Yes, yes. When I teach it in the advertising class in the creative module, it's really about 2 opposing ideas. And when you mismatch them together, it's like a spark to the brain.
Yeah.
And then people really take notice versus, okay, it's a healthcare person's driving down the street. They pull up at a hospital. It's like,
I've seen it.
yeah.
I could be anywhere.
Yeah.
What-
At any hospital.
Exactly. So what makes your your care, your brand, your product different.
Okay.
I'd say the last thing is to create content for the platform. And that's probably a no-brainer for a lot of us, but
We know it as practitioners, but we don't always do it. It is a no-brainer, but do we do it?
I think we really try hard to be cognizant of budgets and to make things fit in all the spaces. You know, have one video shoot sliced and diced to fit the TikTok and the Instagram and the streaming, and sometimes it just doesn't work. And again, it goes back to that authenticity piece. If you're trying to put this really polished, beautiful, elegant commercial on TikTok, it's not going to get any engagement because that's not the style of content that audience is looking for or engaging with. So, you know, one size does not fit all.
That's it. Thank you. And I think many of us know that as practitioners. We know that, but the time and the effort and the money to do it, we just say, fine, put the same thing on Facebook as Instagram, as Snapchat, as TikTok, but it just doesn't work that way.
At least make it sized to fit. Gosh, that's my biggest pet peeve. Like, do not put a horizontal video in a vertical space. At least if that's all your budget can allow, at least crop it.
Just crop it. So we're in New Orleans, right? New Orleans, as we all know, is a city that is very rich in culture and in heritage. How do you leverage the city's unique attributes in all that we are in your content to create lasting connections with visitors and potential clients with the tourism organization you're part of, New Orleans and Company?
I mean, that's such a good question. And I think fortunately we live in a place where it perhaps is a little bit easier to do than say well, I won't name drop any
exactly.
other
I was going to say
cities.
like Des Moines, but like, you know what I mean?
I'm going to borrow from a previous answer and say it's the people. It's highlighting those culture bearers, those people who are making the music, cooking the food, creating the artwork. It's highlighting their stories. It's highlighting the crafts that they do. It's honoring the history. It's honoring their legacy, and it's when you can, it's connecting people to those experiences. There's a lot of data, a lot of research right now about travel experiences. Travelers are looking for spaces and places where they can really immerse themselves into the culture, not just go eat at a restaurant, but perhaps it's a special 7-course tasting menu in someone's home and the chef comes to cook it for you and you get this opportunity to talk one-on-one with him. So the point is, if you can help connect someone to a space and a place where they can be a lot more immersed, their activity can be a lot more experiential. I think that is not only what people are looking for when they decide where to go, but it sends them off with just a deeper memory, like a deeper souvenir, and hopefully turns them into brand ambassadors for other travelers.
And a lot of the people who have come, I am one of them. I came for about 18 years over and over for the Essence Festival, working with it and attending it. We decided we want to live here. So I think it also, people really fall in love with New Orleans.
Sure.
You know, and then we come and we want to bring all of our New Yorkisms or LA-isms, and it doesn't really work. Does storytelling play a part in the content you create? And tell us how your approach to storytelling and how it plays a part.
Always. I mean, storytelling is content. And you can probably argue with me and say, okay, well, a top 10 list or a 5 things to do or a 6 places to eat for this event or month or whatever. You can argue and say there's no storytelling in that. Well, then it's not good content. Tell me a story through that top 10 list.
Gotta have a story.
Take me on an adventure. Is it through a particular neighborhood, or is it a certain caliber of chefs? Bring me a through line, a narrative, because not only is it just richer, deeper, more meaningful content, it's going to stick with the audience more too. We as humans, as people, we remember stories. We don't remember taglines or, messages pushed at us. We remember a story.
How do you know when you've successfully achieved the brand loyalty that you're aspiring to achieve?
I mean, how do we ever know? I mean, if you don't have a shopping cart where you check out and you have a product and then you see that buyer's coming back again and again, it's always going to be a little bit trickier to measure success in that term. However, I will say we actually just got back some data. We did a survey across the country asking a cross-section of people who had been to New Orleans before and who had never been, but perhaps considering it as a destination. And what was really pleasing in the results was the fact that the folks who had been here before, the people who had visited New Orleans, their numbers, their affinity, their appreciation, their likeliness to recommend, to come back, were all well higher above those who had never been. I guess that's kind of a no-brainer, but it was nice to see it in writing that these people who have visited our city, they're, even when it comes to things like safety or cleanliness, their impressions, their takeaways of some of those factors when we think about where we want to go on a vacation. Is it clean? Is it safe? Is it culturally rich? We're well high, great return. So that is one way that we can kind of look and say, okay, well, these are people who have actually used our product before, so to speak, and they want to come back. They had a good time. They're willing to recommend it to someone else. So in that regard, survey data is helpful for the things that we do.
Thank you so much. I talk to my students all the time about the importance of research and using data, right?
Yes.
Not just making decisions because you want to. Do you think that, promoting New Orleans, is it one of your more fun jobs relative to some of the other places you've worked? You've worked across a lot of industries, so we talked about earlier. But what's it like to actually be promoting New Orleans to the world?
It's really interesting. It's really exciting. It's nice to have so many things to choose from to talk about. I think everywhere I've worked has really been so fascinating, and I've learned so much every step of the way. Now that I'm here, I feel like I get to take everything that I've learned along the way and kind of relax a little bit because you look up any weekend, any month of the year in New Orleans, there's something going on, so there's something to talk about.
Yep.
Whereas perhaps in other industries, those topics are maybe more told to you as to, we want to promote this service line, or this is the breaking news today, or these are the new products in our retail shop that we have to push. And so sometimes that's great, being told this is the goal.
Right.
This is what we need to sell.
Launching this product July 4th, right, 2025, right.
Absolutely. Like some days it's, just tell me what to do and I'll do it.
Right.
But it's also the flip side of that is the city of New Orleans, which is just wide open for so many things to talk about.
Do you have any challenges with, you say yes, so yes, you're nodding. So what are your challenges? You've already said yes. What are your challenges with promoting New Orleans?
I would say, there's a couple of things, but I'll point to two, which would be, number one, making sure that we're also engaging the local community and we're taking their feedback, we're understanding what they need, and that they are aligned with this idea of bringing visitors to our city, that they want them to come, that they want us to bring them into their businesses or to their neighborhoods.
Yes.
And that is just challenging from a logistical standpoint. How do you talk to everyone in the community? You do your best and you try to engage as many people as you can. And you make sure to tell their stories as well. Because truly, I think I've said this a few times, but it's really the people of New Orleans that make it so special.
Yeah.
So we have to keep them involved in the conversation. And then the other challenge, which is related to that, is the perception of our city can be what it is. It can be skewed. It can be false at times. But we have our things. Every city has its things.
Does it start with a C and with the E? Yes.
Even we'll take cleanliness.
Oh, that one
is one that we can easily talk about and identify as we know, travelers. It's on the list of things that they look for when they pick a destination. And so, how do we help our city, our government, our volunteer groups? How do we help with recycling during Mardi Gras, getting those aluminum cans off the neutral ground? How do we kind of put our walk the walk and not just talk the talk, not just tell visitors, hey, it's great, it's clean, but actually get out there and help those community efforts to keep it clean. And as a result, you're also helping the people who live here, right? If you grow up here, if you live here, if you have a family here, you also want a clean city.
Correct.
So in a way, it's like by engaging that local audience and keeping the city clean, you're actually directly benefiting the people who live here.
Correct.
And you're also getting them engaged with this idea of bringing other people into their city. And if you have a clean city, they're more likely to come to that city.
Correct.
Does all of that make sense?
It does. It all kind of works together.
Right?
Have you found that a lot of the residents don't want people to come? Going back to what you mentioned a little bit ago?
Personally, I have not encountered anything like that. I think everyone has a pretty good understanding that tourism is a huge part of our economic makeup.
Correct.
I think perhaps there could be conversations that we might focus too much on the visitor and not enough on the resident. And so that's where making sure that we are engaging, we are having conversations. And like I just said, ultimately, if we're doing things that benefit the residents first,
yes,
it also benefits the visitor.
Yes.
So it can appear that we're doing it for the visitor, but in reality, we're doing it for everyone.
Cool. Last couple of questions.
Yeah.
When you think about your body of work as a marketing leader, right, in our city, is there one campaign that you are super proud of, no matter where you've been, if it's LCMC or, currently at New Orleans and Company?
That's a really good question. And the one that sticks out to me is the vaccination campaign that I was a part of with LCMC Health. That was really special, and it was really impactful. I mean, it was at a time when we were all still working from home, things were reduced, we couldn't go and get out. But when we got that vaccine and we were able to stand up the convention center to be a vaccination site, it was really special. We got to be part of the movement forward of getting people feeling safer, feeling more comfortable, and feeling like they could get back just to the things that they wanted to do. Not back to normal or back to any thing, but just back to life. And so the campaign was all about the things that we missed because of our, restricted living situations, things like festivals. Things like going out to eat with a big group of people, blowing out birthday candles, all those things that we missed. And so we created a commercial that highlighted going to festivals, going out to dinner, all the things that we as New Orleanians love, that we rally around as people who live here. And that's what we use to motivate folks to sign up to get a vaccine and to come to the convention center and experience the LCMC Health brand, the customer service care part of that whole thing. And that was really special to me to be a part of that.
Why?
Well, because I think it was really hopeful in a time where there wasn't a lot of hope.
Okay.
It was an actual step that you could take to move on, to move forward, to get back to life. And it was really nice putting together the commercial. Everyone in the commercial was real people, was real New Orleanians. We worked with some teachers and an actual grandmother and her grandson who hadn't been able to hang out with each other for a while, and getting to see them be a part of the creative, it was really special.
I understand that. As a marketer, a lot of times, as you mentioned earlier, we get caught up in just pushing products and launches and that kind of thing, and it becomes a little stale at a certain point. And, I know when I worked in advertising years ago in the agency side in the 90s, I kind of felt like I was just a part of a system that was pushing capitalism on it. Just like that's what I was, just pushing products, right? Making people buy things. I can understand as a marketer for you that it would be this opportunity where you as a marketer, you are marketing health, you are marketing giving back and restoring life and vitality and hope for our people. So that's really cool.
And I'm sure you remember there was a lot of questions around the vaccine too. Is it safe? We don't know anything about it. Is it really going to work? And we looked at research again. The Ad Council had a lot of great information to use to look at, and we noticed right away that it wasn't so much this idea of do it for yourself, do it for your neighbor, that wasn't really what was going to motivate people to go out and get the vaccine. It was all of the things that they were missing, that they weren't able to do. That was well more of a motivator than any sort of like altruistic component of vaccination.
Smart. So use that.
Exactly. Yeah. And in New Orleans, there's so many things to choose from. Correct. So many things that got halted, that got stopped, parades, festivals, etc. You know, so making a commercial with all of those things as a motivator to go out and get the vaccine was, I thought, was very smart.
Yeah.
But it was also very emotional. It had that human touch. It also had that local touch, and it had all the things that we've talked about here today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That makes sense. So our final question for you is really just about you. Like, you know, you've built a really beautiful career in New Orleans in marketing and advertising. Have you ever worked anywhere else outside of New Orleans?
I have not.
And I ask that question with love because I have plenty of students who say, I want to work in marketing and advertising, but I may have to go away. You know, and I'm like, well, there are a lot of businesses here. New Orleans, and I mean, there are so many businesses that are here. And I wanted to highlight you because of that. I'm like, okay, there are plenty of business and professional opportunities in our industry here. What skills have you cultivated which have helped you be successful in creating powerful content and marketing?
Number one, as a content creator, you should be consuming content yourself. You should be looking at what other people are doing, other brands are doing. I'm always saving posts, saving videos on my Instagram of like, ooh, that was cool. That was a great ad, or that was a great way to do a top 10 list, or consume. Just take a look and notice what you don't like either. Notice when brands aren't getting it right or when something quite doesn't feel good. Use that to just always be thinking outside the box of how you're going to make a commercial, how you're going to do a photo shoot, post on social, talk to someone in a newsletter. Don't you love when you get a great email in your inbox that actually makes you want to click on it? Because we get a lot of email. But if there's one that really captures your attention, remember that subject line. Anyway, okay, so we're number one, always be consuming content. Always be the viewer, always be the audience. Number two, learn how to communicate.
So for you, when you think about the skills that have helped you be successful, your ability to communicate has been something that's critical.
Yes, yes. Especially if you are working with people in different generations, which hopefully you are, because if you're getting a role with an organization that values diversity, which this day and age, if it doesn't, what's wrong with that organization? You're going to be interacting with people who are a different age and have different styles of communication, and the ability to understand how you like to be communicated with, as well as your colleagues. Just start there. This is how I like to be communicated with, and let people know that.
Correct.
And also be receptive to the ways that other people like to be communicated with. It just goes a long way in getting things done and being more efficient and just cutting out the cattiness.
Right. Absolutely.
Especially if we're hybrid, remote.
Yes.
Communication is just so important. And then the third thing, truthfully, is when you're creating good content, it's surrounding yourself with good content creators.
Okay.
It's having good photographers, having good writers, having good, social media content creators. Those are really valuable skills, and you should know when you don't have them, and that when you need to lean on someone else, someone who's better than you, someone who is skilled in graphic design or motion graphic editing. Let them shine. Let them do what they're good at, and then everyone wins.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. We are
you.
so excited that you are here in our city and you are creating amazing campaigns that drive people to come to our city. So thank you so much, Mandy.
Thank you for having me. It's been great.
Yay. All right. So thank you so much for joining us for this edition of Behind the Ad. We hope that you have enjoyed this conversation. Check out Visit New Orleans to see all of the amazing content that Mandy and her team create to attract people to our lovely city and get people to move here like me. I'll see you at the next edition of Behind the Ad. See you soon.